Hey folks, Ariel over here at Finance. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about water catchment and flow and stuff on this property. I've got a bunch of questions about this recently. As you can probably tell from those dark gray clouds over there, I think it's going to be either raining or snowing again here in a minute. It was raining on me earlier. It actually poured for a little while earlier, and now I see raindrops coming down, so I don't know if I'll get this video done before it's too wet to have the camera out here. I hear it starting on the shop roof behind me. Anyway, I put a post on MeWe this morning. If you don't follow Finance on MeWe, you miss out on all the cool little daily posts I do there. Anyway, showing the beautiful sunshine and blue skies over the tiny house yesterday. As you can probably see, I'm going to move this camera under the lean-to roof here because it is raining hard. There, that's better. You can probably hear the rain on the roof above you. I had put a post this morning showing the beautiful blue skies over the tiny house yesterday, and as you can see, almost all the snow is melted except for on some of the shadier hills behind us, and the rain made the kitties and the chickens and everybody want to come back for shelter, except for the ducks. They love being out in the rain. The chickens were all over there in the tree line along the creek, and now they're back here. Anyway, I said that this is what the weather looked like yesterday. As you can see, most of our recent snowfall has disappeared, but that was great. It all soaked in, and we need the moisture here this year. And that it was pouring rain this morning, and somebody said you need to be sure you catch all that water so you don't lose it. So I wanted to talk about rainwater catchment on this property. And the rain's kind of let up here, so we're going to walk around in a little bit and see how much I can do without getting the camera too soaked. So here you can probably see or hear the rain dripping off the roof of the big shop. And down here, do we have rainwater catchment on that? No, if you're talking about gutters and water tanks, and I'll explain why in a bit. Yes, there's going to be, as soon as we get our plans done here, which is to build a pretty nice big garden bed right out from this wall here to be able to hopefully grow some things that are a little too sensitive to grow in other places, because we got this big dark wall. This side of the shop faces south, so this wall catches a lot of sun and heat. It also protects from the wind and somewhat from the frost and stuff, and then half the roof sheds water down onto here. So we're hoping if we make a nice big deep garden bed that comes out here, that the lane's going to run along this side, but there'll be, maybe a 3-foot bed, however wide we think we can conveniently reach to the back of, since you obviously can't get on the back side of it because of the wall. And then that will catch all the water. Now, we don't get nearly enough rain in a year for there to be enough water that comes off this roof on any normal year to fully water that, but it should help and make me need to water it less often. And I'm optimistic that maybe we can grow some veggies there that we couldn't otherwise grow just out in the wide open around here. So this will have rainwater catchment, but it's not going to look like gutters draining into a tank kind of catchment. It's going to go directly into watering plants we want to eat. We hope to do, well, I'm planning to do, as soon as we can get the flower and herb beds built back around the tiny house, which is the way I've done this for years, they catch all the water that comes off of that roof. And again, it's not enough to fully keep them watered, but it reduces for sure the amount of time I have to spend watering. So we're gonna have the same kind of water catchment down there on the tiny house. And then here, what I want to show you here is I've gotten questions on, are we going to do swales to catch water so it doesn't run off this property? Well, this property already basically came with that. You can probably see this ditch that Burley's walking down into. That maybe gives you a bit of scale of how deep that is. This ditch was actually set up to be able to flood irrigate the property. It connects to the creek behind us. It hasn't been used in a long time for that, but it was set up to be able to divert creek water into and flood here. And then if you come out to here, you can see this less clearly, but there's a second small ditch or swale here. And then the whole property is mostly flat, but it sheets gradually downhill that way. So if you had enough water in the creek, which there was not last year, you could flood irrigate this whole property, and that is what it was set up for. But it works out great even if we never flood irrigate here to, here comes both kittens, to be able to know that nothing that comes in on the uphill side of our property, which is again not very steep here, is ever going to flow off. Now also, nothing is flowing off anyway. We can get the hardest rain that we ever get. It just rained like 1/4 of an inch in an hour or something. That's hard rain for here, and they are calling for more snow tonight. You can probably see on the mountains above the tiny house, there's a little dusting up higher of new snow that came down while it was raining on me this morning. And they are saying that we're supposed to get some more snow on the ground here tonight, a few inches, but I doubt it'll last long. Hi, little man. Do you want to pose for the camera too? Meow. Oh, you're going to say, I don't want to be cuddled. Just pet my ears. I don't want to be cuddled. No, I don't like being cuddled. Yeah, well, don't scratch my finger when you jump out. Rain just soaks in here. We don't ever get, like I grew up in southern Pennsylvania. I know what it's like to get downpours where you can get inches. That does not happen here. You know, the high mountains in Wyoming here are a borderline desert climate. Most of our precipitation for the whole year comes down as snow, not as rain, and we rely on that to soak into the ground here and soak into the ground up higher on the mountains above us and drain down to here all year for our moisture, because very often you get very little rain in the whole year. And by very little, I mean of the 15-16 inches of total precipitation that is the average. We are below average this year, but that's the long-term average. 3 or 4 of it will come down as rain. All the rest is snow. And I've talked before about how many, when you have dry powdery snow, how you can get 40, 50, 60, 100 inches of snow to have an inch of moisture. So even though the snow looks deep, there's not that much water in it most of the time. So we only get a few inches of rain, and most of that comes like right now in the spring and some in the fall, and very, very little in the summer. Like we can get a thunderstorm that'll basically make water drops in the dust, and by a half hour later, it's bone dry again. Also, this soil is very, very porous. So to give you an idea of, not only does our heavy rain, which would be a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, maybe an inch if it's like a really record rain, not only does that much water never have a problem with running off of anything, we have pretty good topsoil here. It varies from, 6 inches to almost 2 feet deep across this property, depending where we've dug into it. Under that is very loose, like gray, shaly type gravel, and water just drains straight through here. For a good example, back last spring, when we broke our water main that comes down from the spring, that's how we get our water, that was a 4-inch pipe. It comes out of the hydrant at 85 pounds of pressure right out of the end of the hydrant. We broke into that 4-inch water main. It geysered water in the air. It ran for, I think, most of an hour before we were able to get it shut off. It put tens of thousands of gallons of water onto the ground there, and actually managed to make a puddle on the surface, which you cannot do by like running a garden hose onto the surface. It soaks in faster than you can possibly get it. But running a 4-inch water main, geysering out of there onto the surface for an hour, we did make a surface puddle. And it was really wet before that. The ground was really, really saturated. We just had several very good rains for a week. Right before we broke that, the ground was actually muddy on top. And still, after getting the water shut down, that entire water was soaked in, and as far as being visible on the surface, gone, I think, within half hour, 40 minutes. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. When you run tens of thousands, I don't know, 50,000 gallons of water onto the surface in one spot, you can get a surface puddle, but that's just about the only way you can get it, and it doesn't last for very long. So the rains and snows we normally get just soak in to this ground. So my challenge, compared to some places where you're doing water catchment to deal with runoff and stuff, we don't have runoff. What we call runoff here is when those snow up high on those mountains melts and runs down the creeks and streams and stuff through the spring, and then hopefully, if there's a good snowpack, all summer long. We do not get runoff like it rained here and muddy water ran to anywhere. That just does not happen in my area. So what I'm dealing with more is I don't really need to do anything to get it to soak into the ground. That just happens. What I do need to do is this. Okay, now I'm just this side of, I'm almost on the edge of that second little swale ditch, the more shallow one. This is actually a honeyberry bush I planted last year, and you can't really see it yet, or they don't show up yet, but the little leaf buds are swelling. It's gonna have leaves on it here before too long, which is exciting. But there's a reason it and several other bushes are planted along here, because any moisture that does soak into that little swale will hopefully keep them just a little bit more moist than other things. But what I'm having to do is lots of mulching. And there was a lot of wood chip mulch around here. Oh, that's such a nice ball. Last year, the chickens and ducks have somewhat scratched it up and turned it over. And I had planted clovers around here, and they are coming back. They're pretty hardy. These are clovers, and all through here. What I'm trying to do is get as much organic material like wood chips, grass, straw, compost, manure, any of those kinds of things that I have onto the surface to help keep that moisture from drying out when it does go into the ground here. Because again, I don't have a problem getting it to go into the ground. It does not run off. No drop of water has ever, I don't think, run off this property. Certainly not in the year and a half that I've been watching it here. What I'm trying to do is keep it from evaporating out and to retain in the soil a little longer. So lots of mulch behind me there. You can see an old wood chip pile. I need to do some more mulching with that around things. Those are pretty well rotted. They've been breaking down for 8 or 9 years, I believe. And I don't throw very well when I'm sitting down. I don't throw very well. Anyway, I don't know if you guys can see Zipper ran over to fetch the ball too. And now it's raining harder again. Anyway, so that's my goal. The water already soaks in here. We already have ditches or swales, whatever you want to call them, that keep any extra moisture soaked into the ground. It happens anyway because of the low amounts of moisture we get and the texture of the existing soil. And what I am trying to do is to get it to stay in the soil and not just go away from underneath quite so quickly, and keep the surface bunch of inches where the plants have the majority of their roots. I'm trying to keep that more moist. So that's how we do water catchment here. So again, on the tiny house and the shop, those roofs are going to be back here shortly as soon as we can get everything done, going into beds that where they provide hopefully a good share of the water in that bed, and to water the herbs and veggies and whatever we're growing and reduce our need to water it more. But what we are not doing is putting pipes and drains and stuff into a water tank, because we simply get so little water here. 3 or 4 inches of rainfall total in a year would not add up to that many gallons of water stored, and we'd only be able to use such a thing for 3 months a year, and then we'd have to have it all drained and emptied and prevented anything from getting in there so it didn't all freeze and crack in all of the snowier, colder months of the year, because we have 8 to 9 month winters. We can get hard freezes in the summer, so well, not just can. I've never gone more than, I think maybe a record was 6 weeks one summer without having a killing type freeze. So that happens all summer long, usually every other week or so. And so doing the kind of water catchment that a lot of people are picturing, where they're picturing water flowing through pipes and into some kind of storage, that just doesn't really make sense here for that whole host of reasons. But we are catching and using all of the water as much as we can, and no drops of water run off this property to go away and be wasted. They eventually get off the property once they filter through the soil and go on downhill, because living at 6,300 feet of elevation, everything's going to go downhill eventually, but not until after it's thoroughly saturated into the ground here. So hopefully that answers questions. If you had questions about rainwater catchment and watering, and are we gonna dig swales and all of that stuff. So now I'm going to go inside before I get any damper, because it is misting on me, and you all have a great day. The other roof we have on the property at the moment is the chicken barn, poultry barn roof. That does shed a little water back here. You can also see how it's got a shady spot where the snow has not yet fully melted from the winter's snowpack back here, where it's more shaded and sheltered, and where some extra snow slid off the roof. This is not really a good place for a veggie garden bed for most things, because it would be too shaded. South is that way. This is the north side of the building. For a lot of that, but what I think I'm going to end up doing is planting some more berry bushes back at here. Maybe, we'll see, maybe a mixture of raspberries and elderberries or something like that, and let the little bit of water that does come off this anytime it rains in the summer kind of keep them more moist. And I don't know, maybe I'll set an actual little water tank under there. It's just that I know from experience, it's optimistic feeling because it's raining on me right now and there's water dripping right now, but I know if I set a water tank there to collect water for the chickens to drink out of and the ducks and whatever, probably 95% of the time it'll be bone dry from evaporation and there would be nothing in it. So that probably just isn't really worthwhile, because keeping water in an open container like that for them to drink out of would just go away too fast. I think it's better to soak it into the soil, mulch this area heavily, and get some useful food plants growing back here, which would also create a windbreak in the winter for when the wind does come out of the north or the west and hit this side of the building. Our winds here come from all directions. This morning it was blowing straight out of the southeast, so there's no one side for that. But anyway, that's the plan for back here, and so we are going to continue to work to utilize every drop of moisture that comes off a roof, and Burley very much loves his balls and playing fetch. Anyway, that's the plan with that. Record-breaking rainfall well, not record-breaking, heavy rainfall for us this morning, and it's too cold still to have rain gauges outside without them cracking. All my rain gauges are glass, but I did set this big plastic bucket outside, and if you can see there in the bottom of it, we got, oh, I don't know, it's probably a cup of water. If I level that out, it's not quite a 1/4 inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch of rain, and that was a soaking downpour here for us, just to give you a scale. The kittens decided it's too rainy for them, so they came to sit in under the lean-to on this chair and clean all the wet rain off of their furs. Or each other.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.